Om Namah Shivaya. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Pyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we will continue the Vyakhya about mantra number 3 in Swami Dayanandaji's book, and number 2 in Swami Maheshanandaji's book. So as you know, it starts with Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya Namaste Rudramanyava Utota Ishave Namaha Namaste Astu Dhanvane Bahubhyam Utate Namaha Yata Ishu Shivatama Shivam Babhuvate Dhanuhu Shiva Sharavyayata Vatayano Rudramidaya Yate Rudra Shiva Tanura Ghora Papakashini Tayanas Tanuvashantamaya Girishanta Abhichakashi. This is the last mantra that we are now beginning to do vichara on. Vichara means to go deep into it, to understand exactly what it means. So this is what we are doing. And the verse is Yate Rudra Shiva Tanuhu Aghora Tanuhu, the one which is pleasant to me, which is also Apapakashini, the one that removes all of my stored tendencies for me to act wrongly. This is what it is. Our life is such that it is not just an isolated set of thoughts. In fact, behind this is a huge flow that tells me exactly where I am and will continue to determine where I'm going until I purposely change the direction and the way of my life. And so with the right kind of buddhi and with diksha and with the help of guru and so on and so forth. But up until then, I am at the mercy of my papa karma and my punya karma. Both papa and punya karma should be thought about here. So apapa kashini here means apunya kashini also, not just apapa kashini, because we have seen that people don't get to the direction of seeking truth if they are very happy in life. I remember Swamiji used to say that. He says, it's interesting, if I analyze who comes to my classes, Swamiji used to say that. He says, if I just analyze it and I just look around people and who they are and what kind of backgrounds do they have, what are they doing, who really comes? And he says that what happens is, you can think about it as a curve that has both. It's a what's that called? Elliptical. What curve is this? Bell shape. Bell shape. Thank you. Yeah, bell shape. This is part of my growing old. This is so wonderful. I have forgotten about the names and so on and so forth. So with your help, I'll still stay young. So this bell-shaped curve is the one that Swamiji said I can apply. What does that mean? On one side of the bell-shaped curve, you have people who are so afflicted in life that Vedanta is far away from them. They are struggling with all kinds of stuff. They don't have enough money, and their health is not good. Whatever reasons it is, they're afflicted. Yeah, you cannot tell them to come to Vedanta classes. The other side is just as interesting. They are so happy that you tell them to come to Vedanta and they'll say, why? Why should I come to it? I am doing well, okay. There's no reason for me to change. That's the other side of the bell curve. So he says, Swamiji says that the ones who come are neither very afflicted nor very happy. They're somewhere in the middle, and through their punya karma and so on, the time has come for them to really look into it. And I would say that it should be slightly on the unhappy side. This is really what happened to me. When I was listening to Swami Chinmayananji, I mean, I had good health. I had a very good job with Hewlett Packard. I was married to have good children and so on. But there was something within me that I was not really happy about. And I remember this so well. There's a colleague of mine in IBM. This is before I joined HP. I used to work for IBM for about 6-7 years. And then when we went to India, and then we came back, I switched companies. That's all the two companies I've worked for in my life, IBM and Hewlett Packard. So when I was in IBM, we used to have, I had a number of colleagues and friends. One of them was a Russian person. His name was Vitali. And he and I struck up a great friendship. We were very close to each other. And one of the reasons was that my name was Vijay and his name was Vitali, and they both have the same meaning. He told me about that. Vitali means Vijay. And so after lunch we would walk around and so on. So I got quite close to him. And we would share our experiences and so on. And he would tell me, there's something you're not very happy about. Why is it that you're not very happy? He says, you have all the ingredients of being happy. You don't have any real problems. And then yet you are not really happy. So I used to tell him, you're absolutely right. How could you tell that? He says, I can just tell from your so on and so forth. So when I met Swami Chinmayananji, I was kind of in the middle, not very happy, and in fact not happy generally, with myself. And certainly not having a lot of problems. Everything was okay. Somehow when I heard, and I think that the sense of vairagya when I met Swami Chinmayananji in 1973 was already there. But I think he invoked it more. How it was already there was, what other people thought to be fun, going to parties, going to movies, and so on and so forth, there was no fun for me. It was okay to go to a party and okay to go to some movies, but I felt that this was very short-lived. I could already tell that this is an expensive way of living. You just do a lot for a very little. But then I didn't know what else to do. I was doing some meditation, some yoga, and so on. Nothing was really yoga helped a little bit, I must say that. There was a American yoga teacher at that time in De Anza College, and I took some courses from him. And I must say, when we do shavasana, where you're just lying as a dead body on the ground and so on, I really, for the first time, I felt a sense of peace. And that I had never had before. So somehow it told me that just by doing things you're not going to be happy. It is somewhere in, but I still didn't know. You cannot do Shavasana all your life. You know, you have to get up and get doing things and so on and so forth. So it gave me a little taste of it, but not really enough. So that got me started to think about things. And then, this is all Ishvara's kripa. I know this, there's no other way to do that. My wife and I were living in Los Gatos at that time, in 1973. And we had a social get-together to go to. And I saw an ad in the San Jose Mercury that Swami Chinmanan is giving Jnana Yajna on the 7th chapter in San Francisco, in the Lone Mountain College. San Francisco from Los Gatos is pretty far. It's about 55 miles. It takes more than an hour, hour and a half or so. But something came into me. And I think the other thing that he did for me was that I always had a reverence for Bhagavad Gita. Even though I didn't understand a word of it, I read these 2 or 3 versions, one's from Radhakrishnan and others. It was just some interesting words, you know, Atma, Anatma and all that, but had no relationship to me. But I felt that this is a book which is so well respected by everybody that I need to look into that. So when I saw the ad from Chinmay Mission, from Swamiji, I decided to go to it. My life changed. It instantly changed. I got a very clear glimpse of the Atma, and just for a short time, but that really just transformed my direction and so on. And then the rest of that, I met Swami Dayanandji and so on and so forth. So what I started to say was, when you say apapakashini, it is also apunyakashini. Means that if you are very happy and you're doing well, you probably have to wait for another life, because your punyas are so good that you're not going to turn inwards. There's no reason for you to turn inwards. The world looks very good to you, and you just leave yourself alone. And really, I interact in my life at this point with 99% of this type of people. They are doing extremely well. Everybody is very happy. You cannot even talk about Vedanta to them. It will be completely useless to them. So this, when you see Papa, our acharyas have said, make sure that you also bring in punya as part of that. Punya is just as binding as Papa it is. You should understand that as Vedantins. That because everybody who is doing puja in the temples and so on and so forth, they are looking for more punya. And it will come to them. Really, it will come to them. But it is not the kind of punya that you really want, because this is going to be binding for you in terms of really a good life. Good life is, as I was saying earlier, is a binding thing, because it doesn't allow you to turn to the reality about the God and so on. So that's just a side comment on it. Okay. So this is the verse that we are analyzing. Okay. All right. So here we now focus on a very important concept. And the concept is the nature of Rudra. The nature of Rudra as Aghora. The Aghora nature of Rudra, what does it really mean to me? How does it help me? What do I need to do? So the first verse was all the thing about the Manu and Ishava and all that and so on. But now the question is, okay, I understand that there is a possibility that the Rudra doesn't have to be angry with me. It can be very helpful to me. How? What does it mean to me? This is now what we are analyzing. Okay? When we do this vichara, we need to focus on the nature of Ishvara as a karma phala data, as the giver of fruits of my action. The nature of the karma phala data. So here, make a distinction between the karma phala datritvam, the nature of giving the phala, in two forms. One is called Nyayakarita. Nyayakarita. And the other one is called Dayakarita. This is an important concept that we're going to stay in. Perhaps it might just take us the whole class, but maybe not. We'll see. So Nyayakarita means appropriate to your karma. It's called Nyayakarita. Because things are perfectly balanced in this life. In other words, there cannot be an error in giving results to you based on your previous karma. They cannot be, not possible. Because the Ishvara is not human. He is the whole thing. And so really speaking, there's no possibility. So the only thing you can say from that, whenever you are disappointed in something, you cannot say, why did you do this to me? It is appropriate to say, what did I do to deserve this? You cannot blame, and you can blame it if you want to, but it is misplaced. That's not what you want to do. Instead, what you want to do is to really look to see, where did I go wrong? And so on. I remember, I think there was I think might have been even in these books and so on, but even otherwise, people complain that, all these, I think Swami Maheshanji was saying it. Remember we were talking about this, the fact that you go against the grain and you have an asakti. Remember that? The asakti, which means that you are not really doing things the way it should be done, but you are attached to something which is wrong. And so there are questions. There are many people who are cheats, who are corrupt, they're not correct. But they've got more money than everybody else. What is the use of being honest and all of that when you're suffering? So your mind turns into the fact there is something wrong with this picture. I'm not sure if the Shastras are really true. Shastras are saying, of course, karma phala, etc., etc. And here this guy, you can tell how bad his conduct is, his character is terrible, but he's having more fun than you are. There's something wrong with this picture. So it is said there is nothing wrong with the picture. Here's the picture. Your punyas are less than his. He has done a lot of good things in the past. Right now, he is exhausting the punyas very quickly. So they're all going to be gone. But for the time being, his storehouse of punyas are such that he is happier than you are. So all this means that there is no question about the karma phaladata being wrong. And this is what is called Nyayakarita. Nyayakarita means you get what you deserve. There is no fallacy to this, there is no exception to this, there is no mistake. Ishvara cannot say, oops, I forgot about this guy. All right, yeah, I'll have to make up for it. No, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Swami Dayanand used to say, this is the presence of Vishnu in our life. You know, so this is Swami Chinmayananji. I remember that they were because I met Swami Chinmayananji so long ago, but some of his words are still alive in me. Not as many as the others, but he used to give this picture. He says, the very famous picture of Vishnu lying on the sarpa, on this huge serpent, in the middle of the ocean, Milky Ocean, and he is resting, and his eyes closed. And he used to say, do you know what this means? And this was in 1973 when we didn't have the computer cloud, and those concepts were not there. But he was trying to express that in some fashion. Basically, what it means is he has computerized the whole creation and gone to sleep. It all runs automatically. There are machines in the cloud somewhere that determine you do something, and if you get stung by a bee, there is a reason why the bee chose you, not anybody else. There's a very, very good reason for it. It just happens. It's all automated, all computerized. I remember these words. He was using computerized. And now we can say that the storage, we can say is that you have a local storage in your computer, then you have a bigger computer called, you can put it in the cloud, the Google Cloud, Microsoft Cloud, and so on. This is the biggest cloud you can think of. Nothing is ever wasted. Nothing is ever atrophied. It's all stored. And you're given. So this is what is called Nyayakarita. Whatever is appropriate is given to you. This is one form of Rudra, the Aghora Rupa. Fortunately, there is another form. And that form is Dayakarita. The Dayakarita means Ishvara, Rudra is capable of going beyond Nyayakarita. Doesn't have to follow the appropriateness of your karma phala. Doesn't. Swami Maheswaranji gives a beautiful example. He says that suppose you are accused of a wrongdoing, some kind of a crime, then the judge that you go to has to be a Nyayakarita. This is exactly what is done. You have to look at what the crime was and give the appropriate punishment for that. This is what the judges do. Okay? But so if there is a police and there is a ministry of law, all the judges that work for a country, all the way up to the Supreme Court, they are all Nyayakarita. The president of the country, on the other hand, can be a dayakarita. And this is exactly what is done even in the president of this country, when at the end of 4 years, they give pardons to people. Unfortunately, they are misused, but many a time they are supposed to be used very properly, because recently there was just a very sad case. There was a person in San Jose just in the last few months, and this is still going on. And so this person found that one of his uncles, I think, was forcibly raping a very young girl in the family and having sexual relations with her and so on. When he found that out, he was so upset. He took a gun out and shot the uncle to death. It just happened 2-3 months ago. And of course he's been imprisoned. And so the Nyayakarita is going through the process. You cannot kill a person. This is a very huge papa. And so doing that. Now, a lot of people are now coming through and saying he did the right thing. Because law would not have really punished him adequately. All these sexual things and so on, people can get away with it, as is happening. So they're saying, no, let him go. Well, they won't let him go, but a reduced sentence. So anyway, that's a separate one. But if you look at the presidential pardons, this is Dayakarita. So Ishwar does have Dayakarita. When does he use Dayakarita? This is what the next question is. The first thing is that we have two ways of looking at Ishvara. The second one is, when does he become Dayakarita? Dayakarita is used, again going back to the imagery of our boy who did many bad things. He was caught 10 times using drugs and so on. And the 11th time, when he committed a crime, again using illegal drugs or some kind of something like that, and he's talking to his parents now. He's talking to his parents, and he's already violated the trust of the parents 10 times. The 11th time, his apology is very sincere. So Swami Maheshananji says, look at this question. He's sitting in front of his parents, and he is time after time violated their trust. And now he is broken down, he is crying, he is lying on the floor and said, I have understood what I did wrong. I want to change. I want to turn to the good. Will they use Nyayakarita or Dayakarita? What will they use? They are not like a judge. They are not going to say, I'm sorry. I know I can see your sincere apology, but you have created a problem 10 times, so you still have to suffer. No. They will now forget about his 10 times, any number of times that he violated the trust, and said, Beta, now let us work together to reconstruct your life. There also Dayakarita comes in when there is this kind of a relationship between the parents and the child. And the parents have the ability to go above Nyayakarita. They can do it. And even when they were doing Nyayakarya, they were doing it appropriately. Because they were hoping this kid will reform, but he wasn't doing it. But now that they see that this apology is absolutely real, they are saying it is okay. You are now on the right path, and now let me help you as much as I can. Together we will make sure we are going to the right direction. In the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, if you ever review this back, please sometimes go back to this. Krishna is talking about Ananya Yoga. Ananya Yoga. It's a beautiful section and is exactly the same as we are talking about Ghora and Aghora Rupa. So what Krishna is saying is, he was talking about the 4 kinds of people who are my bhaktas. They are the, Artha and Artharthi and then Jnani. So the Jnani, he's now extolling the Jnani. And the Jnani is now looking at Paramatma as present in your own me. My actions are based on Paramatma's will of what I want to do. I'm not independently doing things. I'm in the very hands of it. I'm like the issue, the arrow, which has now been in the hands of the Dhanush of both the Guru and the Diksha. You submit yourself to it. Your submission is very important. It's just like the boy which says, I'm very sorry. I am now given up. So this Ananya Rupata is really the one which and you don't have to do anything externally. Nothing to do. You don't have to go to the temple and just say, okay, from now on I'm nothing like that. But internally you have to understand where you are going wrong. And where you are going wrong is you are continuing to depend upon the reality of the world to sustain you. This is what is the picture that we have to think. How long is this going to continue? You should think about the foolishness of doing that, because it is not going to end by itself. This is why that Kathopanishad Vakya that I cited last night, you should really write it down and think about it. Na ayam atma pravachanena labhyaha. And so, really speaking, even for a person who turns into a spiritual path, and I see this, I'm telling you, I see from many of my students who have been studying with me and so on, they are somewhat confused and frustrated. I see the emails from them and so on, saying, I have done so many Upanishad. I was with you when you did Ishavasyam. Then you did Kena. But he says, my life remains the same. The Atma Kripa is not there. That resolution that this is what I want to do is not there. They feel that somehow if I just attend classes and this teacher is talking and so on and so forth, I will become very wise. No, you're not going to get wise. You have the potential to get wise. Without that, you'll of course definitely not be wise. But even with listening and so on and so forth, you're not going to be wise. Then when am I going to be wise? When you choose to be wise. When you really become, you have to internally turn towards Ishvara. Ishvara means, turning towards Ishvara here means that you have to understand the fallacy of what you're doing. That really you are the very source of Ananda. As we saw in the meditation, a very big, quick picture of that. That's the source you have to tap. That's the direction you have to go. Doesn't mean that you give up everything in life, but the way you look at life, the way you look at things and so on, have to be done in a which way that I am looking anatma. This is all anatma. And my own body mind is also anatma. Only the atma is my own consciousness. That is, you have to investigate that. This is the submission to Paramatma. And here, based on the suggestion by Swami Maheswaran, when he said that, he cited this verse. I'm going to give you a citation of the verse from the Bhagavad Gita on chapter 9. You can make a note of it. Number 30. 9:30. And if you want, when you go home, you can actually see the trend of the verses in chapter 9, the Ananya Yoga, what does it mean, and so on. Or effectively, in our context, it means submission to Ishvara. Because we don't really do that. We say, okay, this is Ishvara and so on and so forth, but I don't know where it is and what's going on, Parameshwara, Paramatma, all these discussions and external, internal. These are all confusing things. You have to really make an attempt to really understand this. I think based on a question that was asked last night, we'll discuss this in satsang as to what the right steps are. So we'll go over this in more detail. But here, let me go back to the citation of this particular verse. This verse number 30 of chapter 9 says, Api chet sudacharo bhajate mam ananya bhak. Api chet api chet suducharaha bhajate mam ananya bhag sadhu reva samantavyaha samyak vyavasthato hi saha. This is the verse. He says, api chet suducharaha bhajate mam ananya bhag sadhu eva samantavyaha samyak vyavasthito hi saha. Beautiful verse. He says, even if you are a mahapapi, you have done a lot of things in your life which you regret. I wish I had not done this. So we all have that in our past. Sometimes it's hidden, sometimes it's not, but we have it. Some more than others. Some people have really acted wrongly. So here he says, Apiche, even if, what to talk about if you're not a Sudacharaha, you're not, Ducharaha. Charaha means a conduct is called, Charaha. And Ducharaha means a wrong conduct. Suducharaha means a lot of bad conduct. You have really been an absolute stupid idiot. So even if it is that, bhajate mam ananya bhak. If you turn towards the truth of who you are, sadhu eva samantavyaha, I consider you to be a sadhu. You're in my view, you are a good person. Sadhu means, basically the translation of word sadhu means a good person. Not a jnani yet, but one who is capable of jnanam. You have to be a sadhu before you become a jnani. Sadhu means who talks truthfully, whose conduct is very, we'll actually go into this a little bit more. And so whose vyavahara, this is a very important thing, to look at what is a vyavahara. So vyavahara means your conduct, the way you deal with people, and so on. And so if those things become sadhu, not those things become sadhu. Means that even if you are a mahapapi, if you turn towards the truth sincerely, I consider you to be worthy of coming to me, of becoming one with me, of reaching moksha. This is what he's saying. Sadhu evasa mantavyaha. Mantavyaha means, tavya prataya means that one which should be. It should be considered. Should be considered by others and by me also. Samyak vyavastho hi saha. He says, this is I'm not just telling you this. This is what he says, Samyak Savavastato Hisaha means, I'm not just giving you a kind of like a false hope. I'm telling you this is exactly what is going to happen. So this is exactly the verse of the Bhagavad Gita that ties into the fact about. So this is when Ishvara becomes what? Dayakarita. Dayakarita. Because we began with the question, what is the difference? When does he become a Nyayakarita and when does he become Dayakarita? He becomes a Dayakarita if you submit to the truth. Not to Parameshwara, but to Paramatma, Ananya Bhak. You have to discover that your own self is your final solution. This is what is being told. Okay, so let's continue on. All the rest of the questions we will do later on. All right, so this brings us to the Dayakarita of Rudram in the form of Nilakantaha. This is the word that captures the Dayakarita of Rudra. Nilakantaha, the one that has the blue neck. Beautiful. Just what an exposition by Swami Maheshananji on this point. Again, the Adhyatmika view of the Nilakantaha, all connected to Dayakarita. The central theme is Dayakarita. When do I invoke, when do I gain the trust of my parents to really accept my sincere apology and to really help me now go in the right direction? When? When will I invoke the Dayakarita? Because the Ishvara is capable of both, right? Normally the Ishvara is Nyayakarita. He looks at it as a Vishnu, whatever your karma is, he is going to give it to you. That is a kind of like a default baseline. But if you want to do something special, yes, there is a possibility of being Dayakarita. When? So this is exemplified by the story of the churning of the ocean, which is the Adi Daivika story. So let's go through that first. I think that's all the time we will have today. And then see what the Adhyatmika view of that is. Okay? So again, the details of the story are somewhat vague because I don't remember all the aspects of it. But basically, the Devatas and Asuras wanted to have Amritatvam. They wanted to drink the nectar of going above death. Everybody wants this. Ultimately, we want to overcome death. Because no matter what you are doing, ultimately you know it is Yamaraja is waiting. We all know that. And so that is the ultimate pasha. that he's going to take away from you. Okay? And we don't want that. I'm sorry, I'll just give you another quick story on this. I get tempted while bringing all these stories. And this is very known to us how this happens. It happens in my parents and my father's case and others. People get old and they'll say, Bhagavan, just take me away now. So this old lady was afflicted and her health was failing and so on and so forth. Every day she would do a puja to Yamaraja and say, Yamaraja, I'm bothering my family unnecessarily. I'm being totally useless. I can't cook. I cannot do that. I'm in bad shape. Just take me away, will you? So every day she used to pray. So one day the staff of the Yamaraja said, she's really wanted for you to visit her. I think it's your time. Her time has come, so you better go. So one day she was sitting there, and all of a sudden Yamaraja appears. The black, Bhayankar color of Yamaraja. She looks up and says, who are you? She says, Amma, I am Yamaraja, Dharmaraja. Remember you've been praying to me? She says, you are here already? She says, yeah, you've been asking me and now I'm just doing that. But she says, I haven't had breakfast yet. And then my granddaughter is not back. Why don't you wait? Just come in the evening sometime. If he were to come to evening, she would say the same thing. I haven't said goodbyes to all of my children yet, and so on and so forth. Nobody wants to die. So both the Devatas and Asuras wanted Amritam. They want to have a nectar. They have heard from Shiva and from Vishnu and Brahmaji that yes, it's possible. First of all, you don't know if it's possible or not. You just accept it. But they say, yes, it is possible. But here's what you need to do. You have to think a lot. So this represents the churning of the ocean. You have to do a lot of karmas. You have to do a lot of puja and so on. Think and be loyal and all kinds of things and all the details. I don't know, Puranas will give you all the details. So they said, yeah, we can do that. So now there are two sets of people. So you have the bad people on one side. These are all the asuras, all the rakshasas, with a lot of papa in their background, in their portfolio. In their portfolio, it is full of papas. Then you have devatas, who are just the opposite. They have a lot of punya. They are really very happy, and they actually have satguna pradhana. These are all tamoguna pradhana. Both of them want amritatvam. And they are both trying. And so the churning of the ocean is going on, and Vasuki and all of those kinds of things. So finally, through this churning of the ocean means that all the actions and thinking and so on and so forth, now the phalam starts to come out of the ocean. And the phalam is in the form of both good and bad things. Because they are churning. So that means that some things will come out. So then, when jewels started to come out, very attractive jewels, diamonds and rubies, and it's so beautiful things, and they all started grabbing towards it. Okay? Shiva, in the story, is sitting quietly observing the whole thing. Because he's the one they were praying to. And so he's the one who arranged for the churning of the ocean. He is the doer of the karma phala, Rudra and so on. He's just sitting there. He says, I wonder if they are wise enough to wait for the nectar to come. This is what he wants to see, whether they deserve Amritatvam or not. What, to his great disappointment, even the Devatas, leave aside the Asuras, for them the pleasures of life is the nectar. So they immediately started getting after the jewels. But even the Devatas, who should have known better, because of their asakti towards the pleasures and so on, were also busy getting the jewels. And when they're getting the jewels, they are feeling good about it. Oh my gosh, I got, how many diamonds did you get? He says, oh, I got 7 diamonds in my pocket. Oh my God, I better get some more. So they are very busy it's exactly what happens in our life also. In California, they'll say, I have started 3 companies and sold them. And I'm on my 4th one. And the other fellow feels very bad. I've only done one company, and he's already sold 3 companies. I better do some more things. This is exactly what happens. Everybody is very busy opening things and making money and selling them and make all kinds of things. So the Devatas are also very busy collecting it. Shiva is very disappointed, and he says, I'm so sorry, they don't know what they're doing. As it happened, along with the jewels, and this is where part of the Puranas that I don't know. First the jewels came, then the Visha came. This is the poison, bad things. Okay? And the bad things have to be, they have to be taken out. The Visha also has to be taken out of, just like jewels have to be taken out, Visha also had to be. Visha means you touch it and you're gone. And so it became so much that finally there was a great deal of disquiet, and they say, we can't handle all the poison that is coming out. Somebody else has to take care of that. And then the Puranic story goes that first they went to Vishnu, and Vishnu says, no, tell Brahmaji to take it. Brahmaji said, this is too much for me. I think we have to go to Shiva, who is the creator of this whole thing. So they go to Shiva. And Shiva feels that, if people have this trust in me, I have to drink it. Because how will they'll lose the trust that what kind of a Shiva he is. He's the creator of the whole thing. And when I ask him to do something, he doesn't really accept it. He's not a Parameshwara. So he says, just to get the trust of it, I cannot do that. Parvati was sitting there, and she says, don't drink it. And Swami Maheshanji gives a very beautiful, normally you think that Parvati is in love with him. He's his wife. And so she says, no, if I lose him, then I lose my husband. These are all stories and so on. Swami Maheshanji gives this very beautiful thing. She says, she argues with him this way. Listen, if you drink this poison, it will go and you absorb it. So you now have it in your tummy. Do you know what is in your tummy? The entire Vishwa is in your tummy. The entire creation. And when the Visha reaches your tummy, the whole creation will be wiped out. Do you want that? Shiva says, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. That really is a good point. But on the other hand, he has already promised people that he is going to accept the poison. And Parvati has very reasonably, this is called Upapatti. So Upapatti is that Parvati is saying, don't do it. Because you're going to kill the very people that you're saving. He says, that is an excellent point. Excellent point. So he says, what to do? So he says, I will neither fail to swallow it, neither will I absorb it. I'll keep it in my. So this is the symbol of Dayakarita. Nilakantha, whenever you see this, you should see the blue neck is, because he is anxious to make sure that people continue to strive for Amritatva. And it's possible only if he withholds the immediate karma phala. You see, the Visha is a karma phala. So if he withholds the karma phala, but waits for people to invoke my daya, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to do that. So the Neelakantham is a symbol of Dayakarita. Beautiful explanation by Swami Maheshananji. This is the Adhyatmika view. See, this is the Adhyatmika view of this whole episode. Otherwise, what happens is you tell your children about Vishnu's story. It kind of has a side of some charm in it. But what does that do for you? What it should do for you. This is what I like Swami Maheshanji's approach in looking at the Adhyatmika view of that, is to say that even though my life is governed by the normal karma phala which is going to come to me, but I can surpass it. This is what is called apapakashini. This is the apapakashini. This whole thing is connected to the word apapakashini. Shantamaya apapa. By my invoking the aghora rupa of Ishvara, I can overcome my normal problems of life. And the normal problems of life, as the tip of the iceberg, is only indicative of a huge problems that are yet to be fructifying. Because they are all going to fructify in the next life. This life is not enough for you to fructify. And so but there is a way to do this. This is like waking up from the dream. In the dream it is Nyayakarita, but when you wake up from it, it is Dayakarita. And so that is the story about the nature of the second verse. It's a good point to end. I think it's already 10 o'clock. Just give me a second to see. Yeah, I think we'll continue in the next class on this. There's some more things to talk about here before we go to the next verse. But it can easily wait until 11 o'clock. So with that, I close the class and we'll continue. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya O Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.